Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA Alevel Psychology 2022 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Memory, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Question 1. Briefly outline one way in which researchers have investigated the capacity of short-term memory. 2 marks. Participants are read a sequence of letters numbers and asked to repeat the same sequence back immediately. An additional digit is added on each subsequent trial to measure the capacity of STM, the digit span technique. Question 2. Briefly outline one way in which researchers have investigated the duration of short-term memory. 2 marks. Participants are given a trigram, 3-letter nonsense syllable, and then asked to count backwards from a certain number for a specified time. They are then asked to recall the original trigram. A student showed participants a film of a car accident. After watching the film, each participant was asked to write down what they had seen. The student was surprised to see that the descriptions of the accident were quite different. The student psychology teacher suggested that the participants' recall might be improved by using cognitive interview techniques. Question 3. Suggest 2 cognitive interview techniques that could be used to improve participants' recall of the film. 4 marks. One way the participants' recall of the film could be improved is by using report everything. Participants could be asked to recall every single detail they can remember from the event, even those that may seem trivial, irrelevant, unimportant, or details that the witness isn't confident on. For example, participants could be asked to recall what the witnesses to the car accident were wearing. These details can act as triggers for other memories and could help the participants recall more important information or highlight something that they may have overlooked. A second way participants' recall of the film could be improved is by using recall in reverse order. Participants may be asked to recall the events in reverse chronological order to the original sequence, e.g. participants may be asked to recall the last thing they remember seeing in the film, to the first thing they remember seeing in the film. This is done to prevent the participants from reporting their expectations of how the event must have happened rather than the actual events, therefore improving accuracy. It also prevents dishonesty, as it will be harder for participants to produce a dishonest account if they have to reverse it. Rory is talking with his grandparent and playing a game on his phone at the same time. The game involves matching blocks of the same color to complete vertical and horizontal lines. It is only when his grandparent asks him to describe his route to school that Rory puts down his game so he can concentrate fully on his answer. Question 4. Discuss the working memory model. Refer to Rory's behavior in your answer. 16 marks. Baddeley and Hitch, 1974, proposed the working memory model, WMM, to account for some of the limitations of the multistore model. They suggested that short-term memory, STM, is an active process used when temporarily storing and manipulating information and consists of multiple stores, not just one unitary store like the MSM suggests. The model consists of 4 components, each of which is qualitatively different, especially in terms of coding and capacity. Central Executive, CE, controls the WMM and coordinates the other slave systems after reviewing information from the sensory register. It is used when dealing with any task that makes cognitive demands and has a limited capacity and can process any modality of information, modality-free. It monitors incoming data, making decisions as to what information is important and needs attention. It then allocates the information to one of the 3 slave systems, visuospatial sketchpad, phonological loop, episodic buffer. Phonological loop, PL, processes auditory, speech-based, information and preserves the order in which the information arrives. It is divided into the phonological store, which holds words that are heard, and the articulatory control process, which allows for the maintenance and rehearsal of acoustic information, e.g. repeating sounds or words in a loop to keep them in the working memory while they are needed. The capacity is thought to be 2 seconds worth of what is said. Confusions often occur with similar sounding words as the coding is acoustic. Visuospatial sketchpad versus processes visual information through the senses or visual long-term memory, patterns of recognition and spatial information consisting of the relationship between things and perception of movement. It is divided into the visual cache, which stores visual material on color and form, and the inner scribe, which deals with spatial relationships, rehearsal and the transfer of information from the visual cache to the central executive. The capacity is limited and, according to Baddeley, 2003, is about 3 to 4 seconds. The episodic buffer was added to the WMM in 2000 as a temporary store for information. It is used to aid CE when it becomes overwhelmed, integrating the visual, spatial and verbal information processes by other stores and maintaining a sense of time sequencing, basically recording events, episodes that are happening. It can be seen as the storage component of the CE capacity is limited of about 4 chunks, Baddeley 2012. The versus, PL and episodic buffer then transfer information to the long-term memory. In the early part of the conversation, Rory's central executive can divide attention between the conversation and the game on his phone. This is because the two tasks use different subsystems, phonologica loop for the conversation and visuospatial sketchpad for the game. When he is asked to recount his route to school, a visuospatial task, this places too many demands on the VSSP. This means Rory must abandon his game to free up more attentional resources because of the limited capacity of the stores. A strength of the WMM is that it is supported by case study research. Shallice and Warrington, 1970, carried out a case study of patient KF, who was injured in a motorcycle accident. Following his accident, KF could recall stored information from his LTM, however KF had a severely impaired STM, particularly for verbal, acoustic, information, when KF read digits himself, compared to visual information, when someone else read digits to KF, suggesting selective impairment and indicating that different types of information may be processed and stored differently within STM. This is a strength because it suggests that the working memory model can account for variations in memory performance based on the type of information being processed. The selective impairment observed in KF indicates that short-term memory is not a single store but consists of different components that handle verbal and visual information differently. This supports the idea that memory is more complex than previously thought and that different modalities may operate independently within the short-term memory system. A strength of the WMM is that there is support for the visual spatial sketchpad from dual task studies. Baddeley et al., 1975, found that participants had more difficulty being two visual tasks, tracking a light and describing the letter F, than doing a verbal and verbal task at the same time. The greater difficulty is because both visual tasks compete for the same limited resources. When doing a verbal task simultaneously, there is no competition. Baddeley and Hitch, 1976, found that when two tasks require the participants to use their phonological loop, their ability to perform the task is impaired. However, when one task requires that participant to simultaneously use their phonological loop, remembering a series of numbers, and the other requires their visuospatial sketchpad, copying a drawing, then that performance is not impaired. Therefore, dual task performance activity provides evidence for the existence of the visuospatial sketchpad. The MSM can't explain this. This is a strength because it suggests that the working memory model provides a more nuanced understanding of memory processes by demonstrating that different components, like the visuospatial sketchpad and phonological loop, can operate independently. This indicates that cognitive tasks can be managed more efficiently when they do not compete for the same resources, highlighting the model's ability to explain variations in cognitive performance that the multistore model cannot. A limitation of the WMM is that the theory suffers from experimental reductionism. The WMM attempts to examine complex behavior by relying on isolated variables operationalized in laboratory experiments. Furthermore, the WMM adopts a nomothetic approach since it attempts to generate universal laws regarding how STM processes information, based on dual task studies conducted under laboratory conditions. Using an ideographic approach, such as was used by Oliver Sacks with Clive Waring, Sacks, 2007, and Brenda Milner with H.M. Milner, 1957, can shed light on how STM loss can vary between people. This is a limitation because it suggests that the working memory model may oversimplify the complexities of human memory by focusing on controlled, isolated variables rather than considering the individual differences and contextual factors that can influence memory performance. By relying heavily on laboratory studies, the working memory model may not fully capture the nuances of memory in real-world situations, making it less applicable to understanding how memory functions in everyday life. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.